What do I love and hate about California? I'll let you know. Hi everybody, it's Lisa Zamora with PMZ Real Estate here in Northern California, and I want to go over a couple of things I both love and hate about living in Northern California. First, let's go over the things I don't really care for living here. Number one, drought. We are a very, very dry state, and because we don't get a lot of rain or moisture during the year, we dry out very quickly in the summertime. And that leads to something you've probably heard of a lot this year, wildfires. We have wildfire seasons here in Northern California, and we're pretty used to them being residents, but they can get kind of crazy sometimes if it's out in the middle of the forests and our firefighters can't really get to them to help. So sometimes it makes it to where we have this haze that is just sort of settled over the valley, because if you look at the map of California, it has this divot in the middle and it's surrounded by mountains. We have coastal mountains, and then we have the Sierra Nevadas, which border, Nevada, go figure, and all of that. So it sort of makes it like a little bowl that we live in. And that bowl can trap the smoke and the ash and stuff if the wildfires are super bad, which in 2020, they have been like apocalyptic bad. We have had so many orange days. Here, I'll put a little video of a clip that I did when the fire started right here. So one thing we have to worry about when living in California is wildfires sometimes. This is my backyard. Right now we have a lot of wildfires going on. And I just wanted to sort of show the effects of it, really. So here, I'm going to flip the camera. Here is, like, you can see just the ash in the air. Like, this is a little blobby thing my daughter plays on. And it's just covered in ash from the wildfires that are going around. Now, this is worse than normal. Sometimes it won't be this bad, but yeah, you can totally see it's just like everywhere. This is my little pumpkin patch, and my little pumpkins are covered in ash, so I'm gonna have to come out and hose them off and hope for the best. So days like these, we tend to stay inside and try and keep it from affecting us too much. Like I said, this is worse than normal. This is when it's extreme, and you can smell it in the air and you can see it in the sky. When we woke up today, the sky was literally red. It's the smoke layer. That's not clouds up there. That's smoke. So this is an extreme case. We have it happens every couple of years. The reason why it's happening this bad right now is because we had a freak lightning storm come through, and we're dry. So because we're so dry, it just happens this way. So yeah, I'm gonna be keeping the kids inside today for sure. And we'll just hope that we get some rain or something to help with these fires. But being California, we're a drought state, so we don't really get rain that often, especially not in the summertime. So we might have to be dealing with this for a little while until our fire crews can deal with it. So it'll be covering the cars, be covering the houses, and hopefully we can pray for them and get them under control, and they can get some help that they need. So yeah, one of the drawbacks about living in the sunshine golden state. So yeah, wildfires can be pretty crazy sometimes, but it's just because we're very dry. And being that we have so many lakes and the delta and stuff, it's kind of hard to remember why we're so dry. It's just how it is. Number two, and this one's not really a big deal for people who live here because we kind of grow up with it, but for people who are from like less populated states, drives them crazy. And that is the traffic. California is a big state. We have a lot of people, and the Bay Area is like compacted, and LA is crazy compacted, with the population and the people that live there. And that results in a lot of cars being in a lot of places at the same time. If you're from LA, you're used to basically taking a couple of hours to get home or to work at night because the traffic is crazy. And for people who live in Northern California, Bay Area traffic is pretty much the same. Even places like Sacramento, which is the capital, have traffic. So we have to add additional time to that, both going and coming from, because we need to understand that there's going to be traffic jams. We're going to be sitting there for a little while sometimes, and we just have to keep it in mind. But it's something we're used to when we live here. So it's really not that big a deal. It's just something we account for. One of the big cons that I have of living in California is there's kind of a lack of seasons here. What I mean by that is a lot of places in the East Coast and the South, and even way up north in like Michigan and stuff, you guys have dedicated seasons. You can tell when winter's coming. The fall colors. You have beautiful fall colors. We don't really get that here. We have fall colors or beautiful spring green for maybe a couple of weeks, and then they're gone. And now it's the heat of the summer or the cold of the winter, and that's basically all we get. So we really dedicate those couple of weeks with the changing of the seasons and take it in as much as possible because they disappear like that. My last con that I have is really more of a con for people who don't live here, and that is earthquakes. We're used to them, and most of us barely feel them. I've lived here my whole life, and I feel little tiny ones here and there, but I've never felt a big one. And it could just be where I'm located in Northern California. I'm in the Central Valley, but the fault lines are closer to me, and I just don't feel them. Like, most people who live here don't really feel the ground shaking. I feel them because I'm more sensitive to it, I guess, but it's really just like a little roll here and there or a little shake. And it's to the point where you're like, did I feel something? Was that an earthquake? I'm not really sure. But if you live in places like the Bay Area or sometimes down south in LA and stuff, they get bigger earthquakes or they're more the epicenter, so they might shake every once in a while. But even still, we lived here our whole lives, and they've only happened a couple of times where they were big. And because of our construction and the way that it is, our buildings are meant to withstand them. So the damage that's done isn't really that big of a deal. So now on to the more lively subjects, and that is the pros of living in California. One of my favorite pros of living in California is the overall cultural exposure we have here. We have a little bit of every culture, and you can find it everywhere. That means we can indulge in foods from all over the world. We can indulge in events from all over the world, and everybody has a little bit of everything mixed into their background. It's really great. We can experience things like Cinco de Mayo festivals or Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year events all over the place. And it's really just a wonderful way of building out your exposure to the different cultures that exist in the world. Another pro that I have, which I cannot find anywhere else and is a huge thing for me, is sourdough bread. I know it sounds weird, but I love sourdough bread. It's something that was created and is only really made in San Francisco. And because we have the bakeries, like a satellite location close to where I live, I can actually get fresh sourdough all the time. But it is so good, and it's not anything that you can find anywhere else. One of the great benefits of living in Northern California's Central Valley is that it's the agriculture area of California. So we have access to fresh produce and fresh fruit all the time. When it hits the season for that fruit, we have access to it. Anything from oranges, cherries, strawberries, peaches, nectarines, anything that you can think of, we have access to it going to the farms themselves or going to farmers markets. Tomatoes, peppers, anything. It tastes so much better than the things that you find in the stores. And I would be so sad if I didn't have access to my strawberry patches every year. My next big pro that I have is the fact that the Central Valley of Northern California is pretty centrally located. What I mean by that is pick a direction, drive a couple hours, and you will find a completely different climate and atmosphere. If I drive an hour and a half, 2 hours towards the west, I'm hitting the ocean and the Bay Area and the big city of San Francisco or Monterey or something like that. So I get the coastal feel. If I drive an hour or two east, I hit the Sierra Nevadas, which means I have snow in the wintertime and skiing and, sledding, making snowmen, throwing snowballs with my kids. So I have that access. If I go a little further south, I hit desert and I get to see that environment and climate. And we have beautiful rock formations and stuff like that. So, and if I go north, then I get all kinds of beautiful redwoods and lovely, forests and green and all this sort of stuff. You literally pick any direction and you'll find something completely different from what you're used to. And it doesn't really take that long. And it's amazing because we have so many different climates and atmospheres and all that sort of stuff and experiences that we can have in them while still being close enough to drive home at the end of the day. If you want a little bit more information on things you can do with your family in Northern California, click here. And I'll see you next time.